Welcome to the first, which will be several confirmation hearings on executive appointments under the Cuyahoga County Charter. At this morning's hearing, Council will consider the appointment of Bob Reed as sheriff. At this first hearing, I wanted to explain the process Council will follow and summarize the charter provisions under which Council exercises its authority in these hearings. For each nomination, we have asked Mr. Fitzgerald to submit a written letter of nomination with the nominee's resume and documentation of the nominee's qualifications as required by the Charter and Ohio Revised Code. Once Mr. Fitzgerald submits his nominations, the 30-day time frame in which Council must act begins to run. Council received the materials on Sheriff Reed on January the 18th. Council sits this morning as a committee of the whole and will likely hold hearings in this manner for the major charter appointees. In the future, once committees are up and running, committee or committees that oversee the area under which nominees' responsibilities falls will probably conduct those hearings. The hearing process will be as follows. We will offer time for public comment for those who have signed in. Public comments are limited to 2 minutes. The nominee will be offered an opportunity to address his or her qualifications, motivations for seeking the position, and outlook and plans regarding the office. Council members will be offered the opportunity to ask questions of the nominee. We will do so in rounds, allowing each council member to ask up to 3 questions in each round of the questioning. Once all questions have been asked and assuming council is ready, we will entertain a motion to recommend that council consent or not consent to the nominee at its next meeting. And so we will actually be making the formal recommendation at a formal meeting. Assuming a motion is recommended, assuming a motion to recommend consent or not consent has been made, council will be voting on that nomination at the next regular meeting. This morning we will hear from Sheriff Bob Reed. Under the charter, the sheriff is an Article 5 appointee, meaning that his appointment is subject to confirmation by council. Also under the charter, the appointed sheriff holds all the powers and duties vested in or imposed upon sheriff under the Ohio Revised Code. And the appointed sheriff must meet all the qualifications listed in the Ohio Revised Code, in addition to having at least 5 years of law enforcement or correctional facility management. Before we begin, I want to make one other point. In addition to confirming the charter-mandated appointees of the executive, it is the council's responsibility to establish departments and divisions and sections within the department under the county executive. As we hold this hearing this morning, we will be asking questions about existing and planned departments and divisions under the authority of the nominees. We thank all of you for your attendance and participation, and we hope this will go smoothly. Do we have any public comment this morning?
Madam President, no one has signed in to speak.
I guess the snow kept everybody away. All right, then we'd like to hear from our sheriff. We had some opportunity to hear from him in our work session on Tuesday, and you may proceed.
Madam Chairman and Council, good morning. And as you know, this past Tuesday, I shared with you the responsibilities of the sheriff's office and also my background. I can go back into that again if you like. If not, I thought what I would do is share with you where we've come from, where we're at now, and the vision of the future of where we can be. I'll be relatively brief. Let me share with you first where we've come from. As you know, I was appointed to the sheriff's position in May of 2009, and at that time entered the sheriff's office in a place that was had a number of difficult tasks at hand. Replacing people, regardless of how much you believe it needs to be done in an organization, is a difficult task. Once that was taken care of, approximately 2 months into the administration, we looked at, and I think where my management ability as city manager in the city of Bedford for almost 10 years really came into play. I guess I have to quote, first of all, the coach of Notre Dame, Lou Holtz, that said that you never want to follow Woody Hayes. into a coaching position. So, some of the things that we have that we did immediately were kind of no-brainers. Issues involving employment. We almost immediately turned over the issue of initial applications to the HR department, the county's HR department, for the initial interviews, the initial testing, and then what they did is they would take candidates and they would then look at those candidates, test them, and then give the final candidate pool to the sheriff's office to make a selection. With that, it gave everyone in Cuyahoga County the ability to apply for a job in the sheriff's office, what had not happened for many, many years. Actually, we're giving a test for deputies coming up. We just advertised it, and that'll be the first time in 18 years that a test was given for the deputy sheriff's position. In addition to that, in the first 6 weeks, certainly I saw the outrage of our good and solid employees in reference to how things were done in the past, in reference to evaluations, promotions based on merit, looking at suggestions and thoughts from our staff to come up with better ideas. Believe it or not, they had not had staff meetings ever in an organization of almost 1,100 employees. They didn't get together every 2 weeks and discuss and share thoughts on how to better the organization. We did that. We have staff meetings approximately every 2 weeks. And what I found after a first month is that our staff, for the most part, was pretty sequestered in their thoughts. They didn't add a whole lot or really come up with suggestions until we started to act on the few that they came up with to make the organization better. When they saw that some of these issues were actually implemented, I think that many came out of their shell and came up with outstanding suggestions for the organizations. We worked with the county HR department in reference to job descriptions. We hadn't had job descriptions reviewed since 1986. We looked at salary ranges. We started cross-training all employees. We made layoffs a top priority within the organization. When I started as sheriff, we had 16 deputies laid off. We had approximately 10 other employees laid off in different divisions. That was a top priority. We worked at getting grants. We were able to secure a number of grants from stimulus funding to be able to bring back deputies within 6 months. And we looked at also the issues in reference to cross-training. Many of our employees did not know how to do other employees' jobs, especially in the civil division. 53 employees we had approximately 2 years ago. Today we're down to about 38, and we still don't miss a beat. What we've said is that you have to step to the plate. This is tough times. We're not going to be able to hire additional employees. So those that were either laid off or those that left through issues involving attrition, you're going to have to step to the plate and take those responsibilities. And I'm really pleased to say that our employees did just that. 38 employees in our civil division involving foreclosures, writs, subpoenas. We laid off 8 process servers. We were at 18. We had 18. We laid off 8 of those because I didn't believe in after talking to all of our staff that we needed 18 process servers. We then took process servers. What they do is they take all the subpoenas, the writs, the evictions, and all of those, and they issue them to the public in Cuyahoga County. We redistricted Cuyahoga County and found that the process that we introduced was a smoother operation, and 10 could do it instead of 8. Our budget is $89 million. I think my background as a city manager and as a police chief, especially the last 10 years as city manager, where I concentrated on budget issues, has really helped in the sheriff's office. I think that a lot of the programs that you have is budget driven. If you're not realistic and you don't look at resources and you don't look at expenditures to balance your budget, or actually to look at your budget and say where can we save, you're not doing your job. We looked at all divisions. We negotiated, for example, with deputies, a new shift procedure where we took deputies from 8 hours to 12-hour shifts, and with that, we significantly reduced the amount of overtime. Deputies that are used at night, in a nighttime shift, whenever we have our 2,000 population have hospital runs, deputies have to take care of that. So we looked at when a lot of those hospital runs were coming. We decided that 12-hour shifts would work very well. We have to negotiate those issues. We do have 13 different bargaining units, 5 different unions. So it's not just by a stroke of the pen that we make these decisions. So a lot of these issues need to be negotiated. What we did is we were successful in reducing staff in many areas, stabilizing in many areas. We then looked at the prisoner board and care line item. As you may know, prisoner board and care is actually not paid out of the budget of the sheriff's office. It's actually paid out of the county budget. $7 million was appropriated for prisoner board and care in 2008. When I came into office in 2009, I assembled the staff of the Corrections Center, asked them their opinions and their thoughts, and we got a tremendous amount of help from the Office of Budget Management across the street, the county's budget management, and came up with some thoughts and ideas. It was all over the place as far as how much prisoner board and care, from $55 to Geauga County to house our prisoners outside the Justice Center, to $85 to $90. It was all over the place. And when we asked what was the rationale involved in those issues and how did you, there wasn't any. It's whatever a community wanted to bill us, that's what they billed us. So we put a $55 limit across the board. We went to each one of the jails and said, this is what we will pay. And we lost one jail that said that they weren't interested in our business. So with that, we've saved millions of dollars doing that. We've also went to the suburbs and said, now just so all of you understand, when the jail gets to a certain capacity, we have to take, let me back up a little bit. We have to take misdemeanor sentenced prisoners from all over Cuyahoga County. That's an Ohio Revised Code mandate. If a prisoner is sentenced under the Ohio Revised Code, then that prisoner becomes, let's say, for example, a 10-day sentence, that prisoner then becomes a prisoner of the Justice Center. When we get to a certain capacity, we start looking at issues of sanitation and safety, and then we start shipping prisoners out. Well, what was happening before is that municipalities were just sentencing their prisoners right to their own jails and then billing the county. I went to all of the municipalities, all 12 courts. I talked to the judges, I talked to bailiffs, and said, we are no longer going to do that. What we're going to do is that when you sentence a prisoner, that prisoner will be sentenced to the Justice Center. We will then make an assessment of that prisoner, and then if we have to start shipping them out to area jails, we will ship out those that are healthy, that are low risk, and issues, because we pay all medical bills to these communities. So what we did, we took and with all of those, and the judges were very, very cooperative. We also said, listen, if you want to bang the gavel and say, you know what, you're going to jail right now, we're good with that. Call us. We'll have our van that we introduced in June of last year, June of 2009. We'll have our van come out and pick them up. The bottom line is we want to cooperate with you. We want to. We certainly want to send a message, but we certainly want to. We want to save money. So, with all of the partnerships that we had between the Office of Budget Management, municipal courts, prosecutor's office, courts, common pleas courts, and the early case management program here in Cuyahoga County that we're working on and have been for the last 3 years, we reduced prisoner board and care from $7 million in 2008 to $1.5 million last year. Significant. We were budgeted for $3 million, but we were fortunate enough in only spending $1.5 million. What we also did initially is consolidate a number of different departments that we had in the sheriff's office. For example, we had our own HR department, we had our own payroll department. We blended that, reduced the number of employees to make it a payroll department, HR slash, but we reduced the employees by 3. And with that, we also took on protective services last year, an additional 155 employees that came on board in the sheriff's office in April of last year. And we did that with a very, very smooth transition without adding additional employees. So, and that just is a reflection on our HR department, our personnel manager, and many, many others, our employee specialist that looked at all the issues to be able to have a smooth transition for the uniform division, which is the brown shirts, they call them. We're changing that to black shirts. We're changing their uniforms, we're changing their patches, and we've introduced a lot more of issues involving from guns. The only thing that they carried were guns. We now have pepper spray, and we've also introduced much more training to protective services that protect the 31 buildings that we have here in Cuyahoga County. Also, we introduced what should be done initially or always with in a management setting is accountability. The 18 divisions that we have in the department, either department heads or managers, are accountable. When we sit down and we say that we are going to have a project, we have a date certain, and we follow up on that. So our division heads are accountable. We looked at other issues. For example, CCW, our Carrying and Concealed Weapons Unit, where permits are given. We looked at that being housed down here, and we listened to some of the complaints of constituency throughout Cuyahoga County. Not that certainly that we want to make weapons available or more readily available to people, but at the same time, it's a state mandate. That's what we're supposed to do. And it was very, very difficult for people to get downtown to go to the unit, especially senior citizens that would have to look for parking. They'd have to walk into the Justice Center. It was located right next door here. We worked with the clerk of court's office, Gerald First, and his staff so that we could move that out of downtown. We moved it to Parma without having additional rent. We're sharing that facility with them. It was a very, very smooth transition, and now we hear from a number of senior citizens where they're pleased to go out to Parma to be able to renew permits or do whatever they need to do without having to pay for parking. It's very close. So I think that's a real successful story and a partnership between the sheriff's office and the clerk's office. You know, what are some of the things that we're looking at as far as where are we going? I've just shared with you some of the things that we've done over the last year and a half, and I've really only touched on some of the issues. We have so many other programs and objectives that we're looking at that certainly time won't allow me to go into. But let me tell you what we're looking at for short term, i.e. 2011, some of the projects that we're looking at. We're looking at a regional prisoner project. Working with the City of Cleveland. City of Cleveland approached the Sheriff's Office in March of last year and said, we are interested in your taking over the prisoner population of the City of Cleveland. A $15 million plus operation that the City of Cleveland operates between their facility down here, which is called CPU and 120 Holding, where they hold approximately 75 prisoners, and then the House of Correction out in Highland Hills that houses approximately 250 prisoners that are misdemeanor sentenced prisoners. They have asked us to look at the operation to see what it would cost, what we would charge for taking over their prisoner population. It makes sense. It makes sense for the criminal justice system. We can do it, and certainly not a slam against Cleveland in any way, but we can do it better. We operate a maximum security facility here, 6,000 meals a day, a $1.2 million in pharmaceuticals, a $10 million medical ward, 22 full-time registered nurses, 18 full-time licensed practical nurses, and $1.8 million in physician services through Midwest Medical. We can do it better, and I believe we can do it at less cost to the City of Cleveland. We are putting that together. I have told the county executive that I will present that package to the county executive over the next couple weeks for his review, and then we'll sit down and discuss it further with the City of Cleveland. We have gone so far as to go to the prosecutor's office to look at the issues of terms and conditions with the City of Cleveland. In addition, we have met a number of times with the City of Cleveland. Our soft date for implementation has been April 1st of this year. We think that we can probably do that, but it all certainly depends on the county executive and this council's review of that project. Early case management, again, working with the courts, the prosecutor's office, to reduce the number of prisoners that we have in the county jail. Those that are felony 4s and 5s, nonviolent, to get them in and out of the process as soon as we possibly can so that the system can take care of those violent felonies, felony 1, 2s, and 3s. We're still looking at that, and that's still looking at in 2011 how we can make it even better. I've spoke to the county commissioner, county executive, on a vision for law enforcement in Cuyahoga County. I shared with you a little of that on Tuesday. What we're looking at is the possibility of impact units throughout Cuyahoga County. But taking in mind also the resources that we're going to have to expend in 2011 with the opening of the Juvenile Justice Center and the closing of the Juvenile Hall over on 22nd Street, there's an overlap there, and the security issues that go with that overlap. The new county juvenile facility is going to need from 11 to 22 deputies assigned to the courtrooms. We're going to go from 8 to 12 protective services, which is a huge budgetary issue for the sheriff's office and obviously to the county. We have, as you know, we've advertised for new deputy positions. We have budgeted 10 new deputies for 2011, and I believe 12 protective services. But just through attrition alone, it's almost a wash. So it's going to be a tremendous challenge for us to look at how we're going to do new law enforcement initiatives throughout Cuyahoga County, given the manpower. But what we are doing is we're looking at how to do it better. Protective services, in the 155 officers of protective services, we've assessed all the buildings, we've assessed the posts that deputies currently have, and we're trying to blend protective services in with some of the deputy issues that the deputies now have as far as manning different posts that we believe that are better manned by protective services. We're working with the unions on those issues. Whenever we introduce another body into another body, we have to make sure that we sit down with the two unions that are involved and make sure that we're doing this in good faith. So I've talked to the county executive at length. We are looking at issues of blending impact units throughout Cuyahoga County. Let's say, for example, there's issues involving numerous burglaries in the city of East Cleveland, that where we could take a unit of 8 deputies and go to that area for 2 or 3 weeks and just flood the area, looking to see if we can apprehend those perpetrators, or at least maybe in a prevention way. Then look at other areas throughout Cuyahoga County. We have a highway interdiction unit that we have very difficult time in getting them out. Highway interdiction is all of our narcotics detectives and our dogs are trained for highway interdiction. That is, they sit on the highways and they look for couriers coming into Cuyahoga County that are bringing in narcotics. There's no one else that does that in Cuyahoga County other than the sheriff's office, but it's difficult to find the time to do that. So those two initiatives, impact units throughout the county, highway interdiction is also a huge issue. And also the vision for a missing persons database that I'm working with the county executive and with all Cuyahoga County chiefs of police on issues involving how we can better serve the chiefs of police with the resources that we have here. Long term, very briefly, looking at issues involving, for example, a regional SWAT unit, regional bomb squad. As you know, throughout Cuyahoga County, we have maybe 4 to 5 different SWAT teams that train. That's outstanding. But it's, at the same time, it's a big dollar amount for all of the communities to be able to sustain these SWAT units. Many of them now are blending together. We have a 20-deputy SWAT team that is the second busiest in Cuyahoga County, next to Cleveland. We are the backup for the Cleveland SWAT team. You may say, why do we need a SWAT unit? We have 15,000 outstanding warrants, a lot of bad people that we're looking for all the time. When we go to a high-profile warrant, we bring at least 4 or 5 SWAT team members with us to try to execute those warrants. And then if we have an issue with the city of Cleveland that goes on for hours and hours on end, as it did over at Case Western Reserve and other facilities, our team is the backup to Cleveland. Regional bomb squads all over Cuyahoga County. They're expensive. There's a good reason to have those smaller bomb squads. As you know, sometimes a person finds an active grenade in their basement. It's nice to have those units out there available like this, and that's what they bring. but also very expensive. Let me just close, if I may, with speaking about ethics. When I became sheriff, I think our people in the county were screaming for reform. All the policies and all of the procedures involving ethics in the world doesn't help if you don't have from the top down. If you don't have someone up there saying, listen, it is zero tolerance. We want employees to feel good about coming forward and saying that something is not happening, something is wrong in the organization, and it offends me that it's going wrong in the organization. So just by saying you're going to have rules and policies is great. It sets maybe the baseline, but at the end of the day, you have to have policies that you have to have people that say, I'm not going to tolerate it. It's a zero tolerance environment. We in the sheriff's office don't clean up for company. We do it every day. It's what we should be about as a law enforcement agency. If you're familiar with the broken windows concept of policing, it says that if a building is start to wear down in your community, glass is broken, cars are on the street that are up on blocks, it's just going to nurture, it's going to bring more crime into that area. It's going to have those people not proud of their neighborhoods and not getting involved with police officers and what's right. We take this thought of the broken windows concept also in the sheriff's office. If we see something small happening, something that may say, well, it's a small issue. Well, it's not a small issue. We're going to nip it in the bud. We have nipped it in the bud, and we're going to continue to do that. The broken windows concept is alive and well when it's involved in ethics in the sheriff's office. So with that said, Madam President and Council, I thank you for your patience and your time.
Thank you. I will point out that there are statutory requirements for the sheriff under Ohio Revised Code 311.01. Mr. Reed has supplied us with a packet. There are things like proof of citizenship and residency and fingerprinting, and he has supplied us with all of those documentation, so we don't have to worry about those.
Yes.
All right. I asked originally if we wanted to go district by district, and there was some indication that we just start with a question. I believe Ms. Conwell indicated she wanted to start. So we have a 3-question limit, and we'll go around the panel to start. And I'll defer my questions to you, Ms. Conwell.
Madam Chair. Sheriff, you answered 3 of my questions, so that's good. We're off to a good start. You have a federal grant that you received from COPS, I believe it is, a grant of $339,450. It has been used for, it's stated in the packet, for wages and for items that were specific for child predators. What exact specific things for child predators was it used for?
Right. Actually, we're still in the process of fine-tuning the grant. The $339,000, and it doesn't have a match, which is obviously good, is for our sexual offenders unit. What we're trying to do, if you're down here in the Justice Center and you go over the area of visitation and down the end of the hallway is where our sexual offenders unit is located. 10 deputies that are assigned to sexual offenders to track and verify 3,400 plus sexual offenders throughout Cuyahoga County. All of those sexual offenders have to come into the Justice Center and at least once a year, depending on the level. It's every 90 days if it's a more serious level, once a year for the less serious level. They have to come in and so we have to get it. We have at least 25 offenders a day that are registering with the sheriff's office. This grant, and what we're doing is we looked at, actually we're changing course a little bit on the grant, and we're trying to get approval from it, is we had kiosks that we were going to buy. And the kiosks would be put throughout the Justice Center where sexual offenders can actually come in. Instead of having deputies' time used in interviewing them, asking them where they're living, and all of those issues that go along and a lot of time consumption, 2 full-time deputies that just take care of that. We wanted to have kiosks, and we submitted in the grant to have those kiosks. We're now looking. We're taking a different look at it. We've talked to different sheriff's offices throughout the state and across the nation, and we're looking at a web-based system. So what we're doing is the $339,000 is also going to be used for some issues involving overtime with the deputies that go out. We only have 2 deputies right now that go out to verify and notify. So for some of you that don't know that, and I'll be very brief with that, is that whenever a sex offender comes into the county, is going to be relocating, we have to send a deputy out to that area where he's relocating and verify that that's where he lives. And then we have to notify everybody that's around that sex offender. So this system is going to pay for some of those deputies' time. We have one-man cars in those areas. We recently had a deputy that rolled up on a shooting in progress by himself. And he actually was very successful. We gave him a commendation for the good work that he did. But you have to understand that these deputies are one-man cars. They're knocking on doors in areas that are very, very, crime-ridden. And deputies there to do a good thing, to notify people in the area that they have a sexual offender there. But sometimes they don't know that, and they're bailing out back windows, thinking that the deputy is there to actually arrest people. So it's an area where I really would like to see, for safety issues, is having some of these deputies doubled up in some of those high crime areas so that they don't roll up on something and they roll up on their own. So to answer your question directly, it is for tracking predators. And originally started out with these kiosks, which were going to be $60,000 to $70,000 a piece. We're now looking at web-based verification. Be less money, and we think more effective.
Kiosks is a system.
Yeah, the kiosk is like, for example, they would walk up and there would be a computer at an area within the Justice Center where they would actually and we were looking at the verification through fingerprints. We have a new APHIS system that'll actually go online as of January 31st. APHIS is Automated Fingerprint Identification System, a $1.2 million project that we've been working on for the last 2 years, where they would put their fingerprint in for identification, or we're really also looking at retina scans. But technology is actually, every 6 months it's changing, as you all know. So we're looking at the different, instead of doing these kiosks that are very expensive and need maintenance and all of those issues, is to have a web-based system so that they can contact us. They'd have to have passwords. They'd have to do a number of different things. We're still working on it, instead of having these kiosks and actually a place where there's a computer and a scanner and so forth in the Justice Center and maybe in other places throughout Cuyahoga County.
Another question? No. Have a question?
Thank you.
Because I asked, I know Mr. Miller has one. I asked him also. Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
Madam President, Sheriff, can you tell us what portion of the people who come to the county jail are released to the community as opposed to being sent on to another facility such as the state prison system? And with those people that are released to the community, do you have any systems in place to help them prepare for reentry?
Yeah, very good question. Approximately, let me give you the breakdown of what is in the jail this past week. 2,000 plus prisoners, about 2,100. The majority of prisoners that are in the correction center are here for pretrial. 1,500 are awaiting trial. Those that are unable to make bond, and those are from felony 1s to felony 5s. We have prisoners that are in jail that have been in jail for over 18 months awaiting trial. Issues, that's 1,400 to 1,500. About 300 of those that are in jail, 350 are misdemeanor sentenced prisoners, not only from Cleveland Municipal Court, but from the entire court system. We started, let me share, Councilman, if I may, let me share 2 programs that we've started, and that will partially answer your question. What we started recently is called a local sentencing option. We are the only county in the state of Ohio that has started this program. What we have said is that many of the perpetrators that are found guilty throughout our court system in common pleas court, that are found guilty of felony 4s and 5s, that are sent to the state system for the first time. These aren't first-time offenders. These are those that have been maybe involved in misdemeanors, maybe involved in low-level felonies, but are now getting sentenced to the state penitentiary for a year period of time, 6-month period of time. We started what's called a local sentencing option to all of our common pleas judges this past year. It's a little controversial, especially because of our overcrowding situation. But here's what we thought. I worked with our Director of Corrections, Ken Kochevar, who has a terrific balance between being a tough Director of Corrections in a maximum security facility, but also balancing it with a certain sensitivity to see that he sees the recidivism rates in Cuyahoga County of 80%. 78 to 80% of these people have been here before. So what we're doing maybe is not working 100%. We said instead of sending these young men and women to the state penal system where they get their first state number, and then they come back to the neighborhoods with a badge of honor of having their first number. Also going to the state facilities and getting involved in gangs. We have a one gang called the Heartless Felons that is now spreading throughout the county and spreading throughout the state of Ohio, where these young people that even if they don't want to be involved in a gang are pressured to be involved in a prison gang. And so when they go down to the state of Ohio for maybe a low-level felony, now they get introduced to all of these issues that go along with being now incarcerated in state penitentiary. We introduced a system about a year ago, 8 months ago, called a local sentencing option, where a judge may now sentence someone who they would ordinarily sentence to the state system to our facility for 6 months, or less. Now, the state, we sat down with the state and said, we want to do this. It reduces your population. What can you do for us? They, in turn, said that we will pay you $24 a day per inmate. That does not cover our costs. Our costs are anywhere between $75 to $82 a day per inmate. But we felt that it was important that this revolving door doesn't continue in Cuyahoga County. So we now have approximately 66 prisoners in the local sentencing option. So now what we're doing, Councilman, is saying that, we're not allowing the door to continue to revolve. We're getting them involved in Project Learn. That means they're going to classes every day. We're getting them involved in some trades. We're bringing people in to instruct in maintenance. We are starting we're building a full-service kitchen, a $5 million project, and it's going to be a teaching kitchen. It's going to be on your agendas over the next couple of weeks as far as the bids.
We already passed that.
Oh, did you? You guys are very efficient. That's going to be great. We're going to have it. It's going to be a learning kitchen. So what we're trying to do, Councilman, is introduce some of these issues to this population that has never been introduced before, nowhere in the state of Ohio. It's working, but it's expensive. So that's one thing that we're doing. We've been very lucky in the acquisition of grants. We just received a $750,000 grant through the Second Chance. It's called Project Restore. It's $750,000. The Corrections Office and Justice Affairs is coordinating with us for setting one pod aside to look at prisoners that have multiple issues of mental health, issues of dependency, and we have many of those. So the $750,000 grant is going to be, and we're contributing $750,000 in kind. That is corrections officer salaries, supervisor salaries. It's not a cash outlay, but it is in kind. We're setting a pod aside to take some of these prisoners with multiple issues that continue to come into our facility time and time again. The recidivism rate, as I said, is very high. So we're trying to address issues involving those involved in recidivism issues. And one last thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to look at issues involving the mentally ill. We have, our population is approximately 25% of all of our prisoners have some type of psychiatric issue. So do the math. That's 500 plus prisoners, inmates that we have that are on some type of psychiatric medication. When they come into this facility, and their Social Security or their Medicaid or their Medicare is then canceled, and that's what happens under the Ohio Revised Code. They lose those benefits, as they should in some instances. But they serve now 90 days or 6 months here in this facility, whatever it may be, and when they're released, they are released to go back out into the community. They don't get their medication for at least 30 days. So what we're trying to do, because now they have to restore their Social Security, their Medicaid, and so forth, actually we in the county jail, we report to Social Security and Medicaid when somebody is in our jail, their entitlements are cut off. We actually make about $250,000 a year from Social Security. They pay us to do that. So that's part of our the corrections budget. So we are trying to come up with a program so that when we're releasing these subjects, that we can release them with 30 days of medication. That's very difficult because our doctors certainly don't want to take on the responsibility and the liability of sending somebody out with 30 days of medication and not under a continual doctor's care. So we're trying to work at that. It's very difficult. It's very challenging. So we're not just incarcerating people. We're trying to do it a little better. We work with certainly reentry. We have the reentry issue here in Cuyahoga County, the Office of Reentry that's just been taken from Justice Affairs and put with the Health Department. We work with them on a daily basis. We have social workers in our jail that is assigned from Health and Human Services. So there's a number of different personnel in our jail that try to take care of these issues.
That's your first question. You have two more.
Madam Chairman, Sheriff, you alluded to the overcrowding issue, and can you tell us some about what you feel needs to be done to correct that situation? Is it in processing people more quickly? Is it in things to have less people come in the first place? How do we get that under control?
I think that's really a relatively easy answer. I don't know implementation is that easy, but I've gone to seminars throughout the state of Ohio, talked to other sheriffs and throughout the nation on how they reduce their prisoner population. If you've seen recent articles in Columbus where they had $140 million set aside to build a new jail because of overcrowding issues, and over the last 2 years, with effective case management, they've been able to reduce their population significantly, where they've actually shelved the new penitentiary, the new county jail project for hopefully for years to come. Effective case management, I think, is the only thing that's going to be able to reduce the population in our jails. And the only way that you get effective case management or early case management is working in a partnership and a team environment with the prosecutor's office, the courts, the correction facility, and many others, probation, parole, to look at those felony 4s and 5s that actually are probably the most in the criminal justice system, on how we can get some of them in and out of the system. And I want to say quickly, because sometimes not quick justice isn't good justice, but those where they're reviewed, those cases that where we can concentrate in a maximum security facility for felony 1, 2s, and 3s, that those criminals that are here for violent crime. Early case management has been in effect now for almost 2.5 years. It's been effective. We had a few bumps in the road over the last 6 months to a year. We've worked those bumps out with our partners in Common Pleas Court, probation, and the prosecutor's office. We're We are back on track for early case management. Early case management is getting for those of you that aren't familiar with it, is getting an inmate assigned to a judge and to an attorney, public defender, within a couple days that they're arrested. The suburbs are doing it very well. Cleveland is getting better, and we're hoping to get Cleveland totally in the project over the next 6 months. They have 2 districts in the project now. We're hoping to get all 6 or all 5 districts in Cleveland into the project of early case management over the next 6 months. By reviewing them, getting them attorneys, getting them assigned to judges, looking at their records, getting those that are nonviolent 4s and 5s into the system and out of the system is the only way I see, not only in a local level, but in a state and national level, where we see success stories and best practices. So it's early case management.
Madam President, I'll pass for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Sheriff, I wanted to ask you, sort of under the theme of regionalism, but specifically about the ongoing relationship with the other big police agency in the county, the Cleveland Police Department. I know that's been a traditional relationship that I've been very much aware of for many years. But what works? What's new? What's contemplated? How do you go about relating at the top to the Cleveland Police Department, and how do you work with them, and what would you like to see? Where would you like to see that relationship go? What would improve it?
When I was in office, when I first took office, within the first 30 days, Chief McGrath invited me to his office. He said that they did not have a very solid relationship with the county sheriff's office in years past. It was a fair relationship. Said he would like to improve that, and he filled me in on initiatives that we have going and that you should be filled in on. 3 initiatives that he filled me in on, and that we are partners with the city of Cleveland, is the Northern Border Initiative, and I'll be very brief on each one of them. The Northern Border Initiative is a $4 million project that is funded by Homeland Security, where the Cleveland Police Department, the Sheriff's Office, Euclid Police Department, and Lakewood are partners. We patrol the northern border of Lake Erie, of our country. As you know, the jurisdiction of the Cleveland Police Department goes out a mile. The county's jurisdiction goes all the way to the country line, to the Canadian border. So we have a $4 million project that we are partners in with the city of Cleveland. It's all for overtime. Officers, not only is it sea-based, it's land-based also. Our officers and deputies patrol our ports. This is for issues involving issues mostly involving terrorism along our northern border. We stop boats that are coming in from the Canadian border to identify if we get issues, intelligence information from the Canadian border, Canadian officials that a boat is coming over of a suspicious nature. Northern Border Initiative takes care of that. So that's one partnership that we're in with the city of Cleveland. The APHIS system, a $1.2 million automated fingerprint identification system. Cleveland's system is in bad shape. We then partnered. We got Homeland Security money for the APHIS system. We are very, very close. It's been a year and a half since putting this system together. It is a Region 2 APHIS system, automated fingerprint identification. Through Region 2 is Ashtabula, Geauga, Lake County, and Lorain County, and Cuyahoga County. All of those will be integrated into this automated fingerprint identification system. It's cool. It's something that all of law enforcement throughout Cuyahoga County are going to be able to work with. They're going to be able to take fingerprints in the car. They come up to somebody who is a suspicious person. They'll have a portable identification system on the officer will have, where that individual can put 2 thumbs on, and we can find out who that person is within a matter of minutes, seconds, if the system's working the way it's supposed to work. So that's a partnership between Cleveland and ourselves. The servers are going to be in the computer services are going to be in the city of Cleveland and the county. With that has built a relationship between myself and Chief McGrath and our staffs to working together. Finally, it's the Fusion Center. Fusion Center is located in the Cleveland Police Department. Cleveland Police Department stepped to the plate approximately 2 years ago when the Fusion Center was in Justice Affairs. I have to say, it was stumbling somewhat. The Cleveland Police Department said we will locate the Fusion Center in the Cleveland Police Headquarters. What does Fusion do? It takes intelligence analysis throughout the county, and it fuses it together. It brings all of this information together, and what we try to do is connect the dots and to say, okay, on a criminal analysis area is where are we having numbers of crimes and where is the next crime going to occur? It's called statistics. CompStat is actually, it started in New York. Very, very successful. This is part of what this is about in the Fusion Center. The Fusion Center also has TLOs, terrorist liaison officers, throughout Cuyahoga County and the Region 2 area, where they get information throughout their county and they give it to the Fusion Center, where the Fusion Center can then analyze it. Let me give you a great example, and I'm trying to be brief. A criminal analysis for the city of Cleveland, for example. About 4 weeks ago, the crime analysis said there was bank robberies going on in the city of Cleveland, in the downtown area, a number of them. One of our analysts said that they think that the next bank robbery is probably going to happen within this jurisdiction, one of these 3 banks, and during this time element. So we set up 3 surveillance teams. It's really a success story. Within 25 minutes, a bank was held up, and our people were outside that bank. One of our deputies happened to be outside that bank and called in Cleveland and made that apprehension. So that's a success story, and you see the hours and hours and hours that is used at the Fusion Center and criminal analysis. You know, you get those success stories every so often. But what the real success story will be is that if you connect the dots on an issue that's happening in the city of Cleveland and happening in Region 2, that could be a terrorist situation. Then look at the people that we may have saved. And it's things that you just don't know that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. So, Councilman, to share, to answer your question, is we have a solid, those employees now in the Fusion Center, as of the end of August, another smooth transition from our Human Resources Department have taken those employees that were in Justice Affairs, and they're now county employees. They're now Sheriff Office employees. And we have Captain Bova, who is now the part-time director of the Fusion Center. Again, trying to save some money. He goes to the Fusion Center a couple times a week as the acting director to oversee the operation. That is a real partnership between the county and the city of Cleveland, and getting better. The Fusion Center has taken some criticism over the years that they don't produce a lot of work, but over the last 6 to 8 months, we have really stepped to the plate, both ourselves and the Cleveland Police Department, and I think we have some real success stories now and in the near future. So our relationship is very good, and without the core community, the county seat, the largest police department in Region 2, being at the table, you certainly miss a huge dimension that needs to be there. And it's there, and I think we have a great relationship.
Thank you, Sheriff, and Madam President, I'll come back around.
Germana?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have 3 questions. So the first one has to deal with at least in my experience, having served in City Council in Parma and having different safety directors with previous experience. In particular, you know, at one time we had a former school teacher that was a safety director. Then we had a life insurance salesman that became the safety director. And then most recently we have Mr. Bepler, who was a commander in the Cleveland Police Department, and it's been night and day, that experience. Your experience is really intriguing that it could possibly happen that somebody that was a police officer, chief of police, and then becomes a city manager for 10 years in the city of Bedford. I think that's amazing that all aligns and you're here. Do you care to expound on what that experience makes you most qualified, and what some of the highlights of both being a police chief and a city manager?
Yeah, being 25, having 25 years on the Bedford Police Department, and then the last 10 as chief of police. I think I was a proven police officer and chief of police, but I wasn't a proven city manager. And I think that the city of Bedford, for the most part, they saw my management style, but they still, for the most part, rolled the dice on allowing me to take it in a temporary way, and then it worked out so that it would be 10 years. With 10 years that I was in as a city manager, and I think what for me on a personal level, it's helped me a great deal in the management side. As a police chief, and during the budget process, for example, and those of you that are involved in city government, as a chief of police, you go in there saying, you know what, I probably could use $3 million for our budget or $3.5 million, but you know what, I'm going to ask for $4 million because that's what I need to, I need to have a little cushion there. So becoming city manager, I knew what directors would do, and I would say, listen, you know what, I was there. So don't blow smoke at us. Tell us what you need. Put a contingency fund in there. I'm good with that. I don't want you to be on eggs every time that something comes up, exigent circumstances come up. So I think the budget process as city manager helped me a great deal. We had a $32 million budget, $18 million in the general fund. We had our own water and wastewater department. Learned a lot about that. I was always looking at how we could improve water and wastewater, and I think we did a really good job at that. But what I had, I'll tell you what the real challenge was becoming kinder and gentler, I think. At council meetings, as the city manager and as public safety director, you would get a constituent that would get up and say, this, and this. And I was kind of matter of fact about it. I'd say, hey, this is the way it is. That's the way it is. And, council would, I'd say, we should be done with this. Council would say, well, you know what, I think maybe you need to be a little more softer in your approach. So I had to be a little bit more softer, maybe a little bit more sensitive. The other issue that was a real challenge for me was the fire department. As you know, police always think that they're doing a better job than the firemen, and the firemen think that they work harder than the policemen, and you got those debates forever. So when I came into office as the city manager and safety director, certainly the fire department was looking at me with a suspicious eye. So I really did have to be kinder and gentler to the fire department, and had to learn how to manage. Had great managers. I didn't micromanage. Had the directors come to me and say, "Hey, you know what? I want to be kept informed. I'm not a nut about it, but I don't want to be embarrassed." And that's the same philosophy as city manager that I brought to the sheriff's office. I don't micromanage. I think when you micromanage, what happens with that is you get people that don't come up with good ideas. They don't want to be critically critiqued. So I think the management side of it, and certainly as public safety director, to look at different departments has really helped me in my career.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My second question has to do with a recent experience here. We in the city of Parma last week we had the last day of our Chief Hoffman, and it was his last day because he was in the drop program, and so part of this question is, is the sheriff department the personnel part of this drop program? Second of all, the second part of this is Chief Hoffman actually took the demographics, the age, years of service, and really analyzed this to the point where staffing and training, because we had so many officers at the top that were going to be leaving because of years of service, and actually, planned on who's going to apply and be trained for those positions. Have you analyzed with all the officers under all your divisions what the demographics as far as replacing them? Are we top heavy in people that are retiring? And then finally, I don't even know if I'm allowed to ask you this question, but is there a limit on how many years you can serve? You understand what my question is?
Sure. You know, I think succession issues are really important within an organization. I will really be critically critiqued by my colleagues in law enforcement by this statement, but I didn't believe in the drop program at the time when I was a city manager. Now, if I was on the police department, would I probably enter drop? Absolutely, I probably would have. But I didn't think drop was good for law enforcement. I didn't think drop was good for succession issues. Here's what happened with drop. For those of you, is everybody familiar with what the drop is? Drop is, let me real quickly, drop is the acronym for Deferred Retirement Option Plan. And what it says is that a police and fire, that's the only ones that are allowed to do it, you can, at the age of 48 and having 25 years of service, those are the two minimums to retire. You can retire at that time. And what was happening, here's the thought of drop, which is okay, but the thought of drop was that those police officers that have 25 years of service and 48 years old, they were leaving the police service and going to the private sector in security positions. So they're saying all of the funds that we invested into that police officer, and it may be high-ranking police officers, now are going into the private sector, and we're supplementing the private sector with police officers. So the FOP for years, and I was president of the FOP for a long time, so I wore both hats on the management side and on the labor side. The FOP said, you know what, this is a young man's job. We need to retire at 48.
Young person?
A young person's job.
Thank
yeah,
you.
You're right. Young person's job. You need to retire at 48 years old. But then it really, in my estimation, it talked out of two sides of their mouth when drop came in, and they said, no, we're going to silently supported the drop program. So here, let me finish what drop is. You now can leave. You can say you're retiring at 48. You start back to work in the same job the next day. You are collecting your pension, but you're not collecting it in hand. It goes into an annuity. So for 8 years, it goes into an annuity. So let's say your pension would have been $50,000. That $50,000 goes into an annuity. You cannot collect it until at least 3 years. You have to have at least 3, no more than 8. So at the end of 8, you absolutely have to leave the pension system. You have to leave wherever you're at. So Here's what drop did, in my opinion, is that for every one of those poster child that should stay around and helps the organization, there's 3 out there that are wasting gas, and that should have gone years ago. I mean, think about having, and I don't want to be insensitive to age, but think about a 58 and 60-year-old police officer that's running through backyards chasing kids. I mean, I didn't think it was the thing to do. That's the drop allowed a lot of police officers that should have retired a long time ago stick around. And what happens with that is no one moves up. The succession stops. Now, sergeants, lieutenants, this will be the first year. January of 2011 is the 8th year anniversary of drop. That's why so many police officers are now leaving, and they have to leave. They have to leave the system. It doesn't occur with deputies. Deputies are under PERS law enforcement. Drop program is not in PERS law enforcement. It is only in police and fire, the police and fire fund. So I've always told, just to finalize that, and again, I think I'll be critically critiqued from my colleagues, I didn't believe in issues involving staying in the same position, retiring and staying in the same position. You may say, well, I'm talking out of two sides of my mouth because I've retired and I'm the sheriff. But when I retired as chief of police, They asked me to become city manager. I did not stay in the position of chief of police. I went to city manager, I had to retire, go into a different pension system. Actually, not a pension system, but PERS would not allow you to stay around. So I had to. I don't believe, we had recently had a warden leave in June, wanted to come back as a part-time warden. I said, you know what, he was very, very talented. And I said, you could, as far as I'm concerned, you could stay forever, but I will not hire you back in the same position. It stops the succession of people coming up. It lets those that have been associate wardens, assistant wardens, a lieutenant, that says, you know what, I want to be a warden, I want to be an assistant warden, and I think it just stops succession issues. And I worry about succession issues. To finally answer part of your question is, I worry about succession issues in the jail, in the correction center. We have so much talent there at the top and when I first came in, I thought that they were top heavy. And we've reduced, we had 2 associate wardens, 2 assistant wardens. We don't have that any longer. We have 2 assistant wardens. I eliminated the 2 other positions. We have 1 warden's position, eliminated the lieutenant's positions, and we now have more first-line supervisors, sergeants, and corporals, a few extra. So we streamlined the top, but I do worry about those issues because each one of those, the warden, the corrections center, and the director of corrections and the warden both have 30 years plus. So we have to start looking at who's going to come up and take over this operation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the sheriff, most of us here, our first obligation was to restore the trust in county government, and generally the second one is streamlining. So in connection, and being an economics major, this whole idea of the sheriff department taking over the Cleveland jail facility, well, it makes sense because of collaboration and streamlining. A couple parts of this was, we're spending, I think you said, $10 million for the health part of this, the nurses, the staffing, the drugs, prescriptions, and so forth. How much is there going to be streamlining and savings in efficiency to our half besides the Cleveland half by having this consolidated? And then the second part of that is I'm just astounded about the 1,500 out of 2,100 prisoners that we're holding are because they're waiting trial. And I'm just wondering, are we working on, and I know we do have some programs, but it seems like, what the heck is 75% of our people that we're holding? I'm just wondering what the average length of that 1,500 is. Thank you, Chief.
Sure. The Cleveland Police, absorbing Cleveland prisoners into our operation is going to be a lot of work. It's got to make, for us, the county, it's got to make fiscal sense to do that. We will not take a loss on this program. We have to make sure, and that's what we've been doing with the Office of Budget Management, our fiscal department, and the committees on both the Cleveland side and our side to look at the entire operation and what certainly makes sense for justice, but what makes fiscal sense. We will not put the county in harm's way. I've suggested a number of issues with the city of Cleveland, for example, setting up an escrow account. For example, if their operation costs $15.5 million and we say that it's going to cost the county, we're going to charge you $12 million, whatever the number may be, that the difference is placed in an escrow account in case we make a mistake. I mean, this is new territory for us. I think that we won't, but you never know. We've been working at it for 8 months now to put this budget together and to put this proposal together, not only with internally, but also with the city of Cleveland and with the prosecutor's office as far as coming up with terms and conditions. So, Councilman, it's got to make, one, I think it makes great sense for the criminal justice system, for Cleveland Municipal Court to not have to have prisoners transported from the House of Correction out to back to the Justice Center and back and forth. The transportation cost is enormous. What we would do is we would take all misdemeanor sentence prisoners, and if we go, we're looking at two things. So, if I may, Madam Chair, we're looking at two things: taking over the House of Correction, or sending out our prisoners to the full-service jails, the misdemeanor sentence prisoners, to the full-service jails in Cuyahoga County, North Royalton, Bedford Heights, Solon, even going outside into Geauga County, because I don't think we have enough beds in Cuyahoga County to accommodate 300 to 350 misdemeanor sentence prisoners. Does it make more sense to take over the House of Correction, or does it make more sense to contract those out, send those 350 prisoners out? And that's what we're in the process of debating and looking at in a fiscal way. So at the end of the day, it's got to make sense. It's got to make fiscal sense so that we don't put the county in harm's way. We're going to set up a contingency fund so that we're covering everything. I have gone over with our staff, they're probably ad nauseum with me, on issues involving this program. But I think it's going to work. I told the county executive that I will have some thought and figures to them over the next couple weeks. I think it's going to work, but it's got to make fiscal sense, to answer your question. Secondly, on trial issues, with that many prisoners, the only way that there's a number of different issues that are sensitive to this. You have mental health court, you have drug court, you have multiple issues involving these prisoners. So can and should we do it more expeditiously? I think we should. I've been a little criticized for that over the last year, of saying I think that we work sometimes in glacial speed, that some of these things need to be looked at. They need to be looked at in a more expeditious way. I think a number of my colleagues in the criminal justice system believe the same thing, and a number of our colleagues in Common Pleas Court believe the same thing. But there are a lot of issues that keep this many in the system. Do I think that it needs to be reduced through early case management? Absolutely, and that'll bring down the cost. But we're working at it.
Mr. Gallagher?
Thank you for being here, Sheriff. As we walk in the dark in the budget coming up in May, June, July, and everything seems to be cost-related with everybody in the county, and as you've been testifying, so is the same with you. Is there any overlap, or is there any other organization within the county or associated with the county that would help you cut costs with your organization?
We're looking at a number of different initiatives. One, what can we do on the revenue side, and what can we do on the expense side? We've been fortunate over this last year, actually in 2010, and it's the entire team at the Sheriff's Department that has this success story. We actually returned $650,000 to $700,000 to the general fund from our budget, and that didn't come easy. That came from a lot of hard work, and that's outside prisoner board and care. Prisoner board and care is separate. So we returned approximately that much to the county, and that's from again, cross-training, all of those issues that I outlined earlier. What we need to do in the future, and we have a number of initiatives that I want to run by the county executive, and I'm confident that we'll run by council. For example, a pay-to-stay program. And it happens throughout the United States. It only happens in a few counties in Cuyahoga County, in the state of Ohio. And it was tried here years ago, but it was done in the wrong way. What in a pay-to-stay program is that we would actually charge those that are sentenced misdemeanors to the jail. We'd actually charge them for their stay in the jail. What they did, and they did inappropriately years ago, is they charged everybody. So those that are here for pre-trial, they charged them, and then the Ohio Supreme Court says, no, you can't do that. And what happened is we ended up having to give a lot of money back. So, but we can charge for misdemeanor sentenced prisoners. For example, those that are sentenced for 10 days for a DWI. There's a set standard. I think it's like $7 or $8 a day that we can. That doesn't cover our cost, but it can help on the revenue side. And there's a few counties in the state of Ohio that are doing that. So let's look at the 350 misdemeanor sentenced prisoners out there. How many of those are indigent? Maybe a lot, but there aren't others. So I think we need to look at the pay to stay program, and we're going to present that to the county executive in the months to come. That's a great question, and I struggled with it as city manager and also as sheriff. You have to understand, and I'm sure you do, that this budget, there's a very, very small window of opportunity to cut. When you have a budget of $89 million, as the sheriff's office does, and 80% of that is people. That's what it is. I mean, it's 80% is people, and only $18 million is the rest of the operation, food for prisoners, medical, whatever it may be. Now, unless you're going to start cutting people, and I think that what we've done through attrition issues and layoffs in certain areas, we brought all deputies back, we brought all of those back, but I think what we've done in certain areas is to streamline it. Here's where the county, I think, in my short window, and I've come in with fresh eyes here in the last year and a half, they threw bodies at problems. Instead of saying, you know what, we're going to do it better and more efficiently and effectively, we're going to put more people on to do it. Well, today you can't do that. You've got to look at the operation. You've got to look at how effective you're going to be. Look at our civil division. We've gone from 53 employees down to 37, and we don't miss a beat. They're always busy. So we got to look at the revenue side. We have a number of different projects that we're going to be presenting to the county executive. But you also need to look at the expense side. And what can we save through the other line item, prisoner board and care? That's huge. We have again, $3 million that's budgeted here for 2011. What can we do to reduce that number? I'm getting worried. We're at 2150. As we start to grow, we start to get that population up, we're going to have to start sending them out again at $55 a day. So prisoner board and care is huge, and being more effective and efficient with the people that we have right now. The judges, for example, I get along very, very well with the most of the judges. I do, and they have a very, very tough job, but they're always asking for additional people in the courts, additional deputies. For safety issues. And you know what? They've got a point. They're very, very patient in a lot of ways. So we've got to look at how we can do it better. And I think we're doing that with protective services, with our deputies. But there's a very small window of savings there. I hope I'm answering your question.
You have, but on the right track with the pay to stay, the used to be the Hotel McFall or whatever they used to call it. But like I say, I think you're on the right track with that. And I see there's some folks from Mr. First's office here maybe taking some crib notes. But what I've noticed with clerk of courts throughout the county, they have a fee that they tack on, and I think maybe this is the time that the sheriff's department and the services provided start getting paid for, and that may be an area that we need to look at.
First of all, Mr. Sheriff Reed, I just want to have one admonition. You keep making reference to the presenting things to the county executive. We're an integral part of this government, and you're going to have to start presenting us to the Justice Affairs Committee and to the council, because we need to be in the loop before this information just comes to us by way of a resolution or request. Ms. Simon is chairman of the Justice Affairs Committee, so I suggest, and Mr. Gallagher and I are on this committees both because of our vast experience, so I suggest that we immediately establish a strong liaison so this information is coming to us. At the earliest possible.
I'm real good at, Madam Chairman, with that. I guess, being a former military guy, I look at the chain of command and I ask our people to make sure that they don't jump over those chains of command. So I'm a little sensitive to that, but I believe you certainly need to be in the loop.
Yeah, we definitely need to be like, okay, I'm going to ask my question. We all know about the unfortunate situation with Mr. Levert 2 years ago. And I'm still getting questions from people about people getting their medication. You touched on it a little bit. I mean, when people come into the jail, are they getting their medication? Because I remember as a judge letting people go because the person had diabetes and they hadn't had their medication for several days. They were a nonviolent offender, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to lock you up. I'm just afraid that you won't get your insulin and you're not going to die on my watch. So that, and also the question of prisoners getting contact with their attorneys. I've had some discussions with lawyers about that.
Yeah, let me address the issue with medication. What we did, and that was after the Levert issue, is we hired 2 additional nurses to do immediate assessment. Let me tell you what happened in the past. We take in approximately 125 to 140 new prisoners a day. And we release about that many, and we hope that it's, we're releasing more than we're taking in, but more times than not, it's the opposite way. But so what we're doing is we do a medical assessment on every one of those prisoners that come in. And what was happening in the past was that it wasn't done in an expeditious way. It would go maybe 2, 3, 4 days before, or 2, 3 days before they would see, we would get the assessment. But then when they say that they need certain medication, they may not get it for 2, 3, 4 days. So what we did is we instituted a new program at the urging of the Director of Corrections that we hired two registered nurses. And those registered nurses are at the initial booking in. They ask during the assessment, the medical assessment, they ask the inmate, are they on medication? If they are on medication, we find out we find out who the doctor is. And we then directly contact the doctor to make sure that what they're telling us is true, and that they'll then send us a prescription for that medication, because they do not, just so all of you are aware, they are not permitted to bring their own medication into our jail. We have to prescribe that medication through our doctors, through our pharmacists, or their doctors working with our doctors. So it is it's a huge challenge to assess. I've gone up there, I've sat there, I've watched how this procedure goes, but I think we're doing it a lot better than we did a year and a half ago, especially with these 2 nurses that are now involved in the assessment. Madam Chairman, I still get complaints from inmates that they haven't gotten their medication as soon as they would like. But some, we're getting it within a day or 2 now. So some are more demanding than others. Now, some psychiatric medication, and I'm no doctor, but they can go a day without having it and be okay. We look at some of the others that they have to have certain medication that they're not going to be okay with. The diabetics, we have a diabetic ward. Our medical ward has certain little wings to it that have different people in there that have different issues. So we're looking at that issue. We're always looking to make it better. We have a difficult time at times in keeping registered nurses. We're about $2 to $2.50 less than Metro General, for example, a county hospital. We're trying to increase that. We're in negotiations with AFSCME. We did increase it last year, so we have a challenge in keeping medical personnel. But I think we're getting better at it.
Okay, my second question has to do with the workhouse. Of course, Highland Hills is in my district.
Sure.
And they do, I guess, get some income from the employees for city income tax. If you take over this facility, are you going to maintain the facility there in Highland Hills? Or there's always been this idea that knocking the police out of the building next door and making that the whole jail. I mean, are we still in that process or what?
Well, this is interesting. When we first started to discuss this back in March or April of last year, I immediately, and it was supposed to be confidential, but how these things go, about a week and a half later, I get a call from the Highland Hills mayor, Mayor Nash, who wants to come out and see me. So he came out along with the law director, and I thought the issue was going to be, if you shut down this facility, we're going to lose, or we're going to lose all this income from employees, and it was actually the opposite way. Is that they were not really crazy about having the House of Corrections in Highland Hills. That because where it's located in Highland Hills, and it's in this park that they have there, that some of the businesses may be reluctant to expand there because of a prison environment. So I got actually the opposite from them, that there are some things that need to be done to the facility that has not been done under the agreement with the city of Cleveland. They asked if some of those things were going to be done. So what we've done is, in the cost-benefit analysis that we've done, is to look at that issue of what it's going to cost to take over the House of Correction. And we have told the city of Cleveland that all members all employees of the House of Correction will have the opportunity to apply for positions, but we would just not unilaterally take those positions over and they become county positions. We won't do that. They have to apply, and the city of Cleveland has said that they're okay with that. So there's a lot of issues involving the House of Correction, and right now, Madam Chairman, it's the debates over what makes most fiscal sense. And I'll tell you the truth, I think right now what makes more fiscal sense is to look at the issue of sending prisoners to the full-service jails throughout Cuyahoga County rather than keeping the House of Correction. So that's real tentative, so I don't want to start rumors.
Oh, okay, that'd be something that Justice Affairs may have to have a hearing on. And my one last question is, from time to time, you've had random searches of all of the employees coming into the Justice Center, in terms of even like the court reporters and the bailiffs, and this has caused quite a stir. I got a number of phone calls. I hadn't even taken office yet, and I've gotten phone calls from people about this. Is there any rhyme or reason to that? I mean, ordinarily, people who are employees of the building come in through the garage and, come up the judge's elevator, and I guess from time to time, you've had these special searches, and it's held up trials because court reporters couldn't get upstairs, bailiffs couldn't get upstairs, and judges were fairly irate. So I just want to get your answer now before this happens again, so that particularly my neighbor, who will remain neighbors to the judge, won't be jumping on me, so I can have an explanation.
Yeah, Madam President, I was not the most popular guy that week. I can assure you of that. Let me tell you that we just don't. What I told the judges and all of those that were very angry with me, it might have looked like chaos, but it certainly was controlled chaos. And do I regret a few things? A few things I do, and I'll share that with you. We don't come up with these ideas on our own. This is really directed by the Ohio Supreme Court. The Ohio Supreme Court's suggestion is that at any given time, all employees, all people coming into your Justice Center should go through the magnetometers. So I looked at that, and here's maybe where I made a mistake, just one mistake. I'll admit to that. But what I said to our staff is that if I start telling if I tell the judges that this day we're going to do this, then they tell their bailiffs, then I tell, and there's everybody. I was an offender to everyone because I didn't do that. I didn't tell anyone that we were going to do this on a certain day. That annoyed a lot of people, including judges. Cleveland bailiffs were really annoyed. If I would have done it differently, I would have notified at least one person, and that would have been the building superintendent and maybe the presiding judge of both courts, just them alone, and said, this is what we're going to do. I felt that if I did that, what's the point? Now it gets out to everybody that at any given time, now if somebody's going to bring a gun into the facility, an attorney, for example, in a briefcase, it gets out to them. And I'm not just picking on attorneys. My daughter is one now, so I have to be kinder and gentler. So, but I thought, you're right. I should have let the building superintendent know because he had a lot of ideas, and I was a little concerned. Here's what I told everybody as they were beating me up afterwards. As they got all done around the table, I said, listen, I don't care that we inconvenienced somebody for 10 or 15 minutes. I don't. That's what the program is. It's not, the program is not about inconvenience. It's about safety. So I don't care about those. And I'll tell you the most of the people that were complaining was not the general public. The general public had to go through the magnetometers anyway. It was all the employees that had, they were late to getting in. And I don't want to sound insensitive, but I don't care about that. It's the building needs to be secure. We get thousands of people a day that come in here. So If I would do it differently, Madam President, I would bring those people into the loop. And I think in the future what we'll do is instead of having everybody go through the magnetometers, is maybe 1 out of 5 or 2 out of 6, so that at any given time, those that are coming into the Justice Center know that they could be subject to a search. But I don't want to sound insensitive, but I don't apologize for that. I think it's good. I think it's good security.
But I just want a further observation. If you come into the Justice Center garage and you indicate you're handicapped, they have to let you in. And so, you come in and you go through no metal detectors or anything. So you could come in through that garage, through the handicap section, and you're good to go. I mean, with whatever you carry. So, I mean, it's kind of, there's a number of loopholes there.
That's on the judge bailiff side
Yeah.
of parking, correct? Well,
Right.
you see that you're supposed to be screened as you're coming in there by the person that's in the booth. That's out front there and saying,
Well, if you come in and you're made then to go around to the elevator and have to come in through the main entrance, then you go through the metal detector. But if you come in the wheelchair and you look decrepit and somebody lets you on the judge's elevator and you come upstairs, no one ever searches anybody.
you're right. And here's, those are some of the mistakes that we made. And here's another mistake we made.
This is being recorded and all the terrorists are now.
Yeah, they'll know about. No, we've tightened some of those things up, and we really did learn by some of these things. For another example is we allowed the escalator to be on. And that could have been a safety issue, because now we took everybody that was in the garage and said, you're going to go up and go through the magnetometers, and now the escalator's going up, and we had people that were backing up. It was worrisome to us. So we changed that in midstream. We told them that they weren't going to go through the magnetometers, they could go through the elevator. So we did, in our after action committee meeting, we learned a great deal from that, but we learned a great deal in reference to safety issues.
Mr. Schrein?
Yes, and picking up on Chuck's comment, questions about building the criminal background and the management background. It impresses me that those two would be linked together, and focusing that we know that budget is going to be one of the biggest constraints for all of us coming down the road. Tell me about in your management, because I look at this as almost like an employee interview. I know it's more than that, but I understand the significance of it. Tell me about your philosophy and where it gets into the business side, your worst business decision that you made as a city manager and how you applied the budget, and give me your best one so that we can understand, being a military guy also, your lessons learned and your after actions you took on both of those conditions.
Yeah. When I became city manager, as I said, I looked at, again, I think that budget drives just about everything. I mean, just if you don't have the money to do things, you just you can't do special projects. You can't keep people giving fair raises and so forth. So when I became the city manager in Bedford, I said we're going to do things a little differently. I wanted to go to initially a zero-based budget, because I think that you can look at each division and come up with ways of saving money when you look at a zero-based budget, instead of just tacking 2% onto each budget and then pushing it through the budget committees. So I asked each division head to come up with almost a modified zero-based budget. Zero-based budget means that everything is on a line item. We see everything, not just saying, okay, well, your budget was $3 million, and we're going to look at raises, 80% of your workforce. We're going to throw 2% onto it, and then submit it. So I said everybody's going to have a line item. We're going to look at everything that you have: cars, fringe benefits, all of those. Where can we save money in these certain areas? So I had every division for that $32 million operation look at in coming into the city of Bedford. And I think that we saved a lot of money in doing that. And that same philosophy I have in the sheriff's office. We've changed some personnel in our fiscal department. I'm really pleased with their reaction and how they look at the budget. Budget is very important to me. We sit down, we go over almost in a zero-based way with our budget to look at people. But again, Councilman, as I said, you only have about a 20% window that you can look at that, unless you're going to really reduce the number of people that you have in your facility. So I really like to look at, I'm a stickler on issues of line items. Just don't tell me you need the money. Show me that you need the money and why you need it. How many cars are we going to buy? Can we If we can offset that by not buying a few vehicles, does maintenance issues then come up? All of those issues that go along with being strategic as a chess player in looking at budget issues. I think it's important to make sure that we narrow it down, not to be a micromanager, but that part of the year where you're looking at budget that's going to affect the whole part of the next year, that's important that you get it down to bare bones and you find out exactly where you're spending your money. Some of the things that I think I did in Bedford and then here in the sheriff's office that I made a mistake with. For example, working with developers. I was really business friendly when I was in the city of Bedford. I think that when business is 85% of your entire budget in the city, you need to be responsive and sensitive to the issues of business. And I think the worst mistake I made was probably 2 or 3 years ago, 3 years ago when a developer came in and said that he would not have enough funds. He had already cleared land, gotten a development ready to go, and he said he would not have the funds to put in a bond and do all of the improvements, the street, the sewers, and so forth. So I went to council and I said, you know what, sometimes, and especially during these economic times, we need to maybe roll the dice. This guy is a good developer, has been around a long time. He's got success stories all through Cuyahoga County, and they agreed with me. So we didn't have him put a bond up. And the law department looked at it and ruled on it, and we got burnt on it. The guy went belly up, and we had to spend $60,000 of city money to finish part of the project. But those are some of the gambles that you take. I would hope that they're calculated issues. But sometimes that's what you have to do to better your community. Here in the county, what I would really like to see so that budgets can be, and I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but the streamlining of these contracts that we have. The contracts are all over the place. We have 13 different bargaining units, 5 different unions. Some of these areas here that are some unions have 3 weeks vacation. Others have 4 weeks vacation. We shouldn't be negotiating those issues. The unions maybe differ with me on those issues, but what we should be doing is if there's going to be any raises at all, if there's going to be, that's what we should be negotiating. We're constantly in negotiations with 13 different bargaining units, and that's part of what should be changed. But to answer your question directly, I think it's really every division looking at their budget in a line item way and zero basing it.
Madam President, if I can do a follow-up. If your best example of one of your better decisions was to start from a zero-based budget, can I then assume that that's the basis to which you start your budgeting process every year? And can I assume that if I look to your business plan for the regional prisoner project, is there a business plan first for that has the capital expenditures and the revenue that's going to be accepted and the expenses that we could look to and pass it off, whether it goes to public safety or judicial? But is there a business plan that follows that, and would that have been built on that best case example of a zero base?
There is. Every line item, and we're almost ready to submit it, every line item that we have, for example, medical, we have a section in this plan that shows how we've come up with that number. Some of them is estimates because we looked at what Cleveland is spending, and we're looking at what we think we can do it for. But I have all the documents on every one of those line items. So answer your question, yes. In the business plan, it's there on both sides, keeping the HOC and going with outsourcing of prisoners to full-service jails.
I would note we've been going for about it's 11:15. Do we need to take a break? I know Mr. Rogers is next for a question. Mr. Greenspan, do we need to take a break, or is everybody comfortable to keep going? All right, let's keep going. We note the appearance of Mayor of East Cleveland, Mr. Gary Norton. Welcome. All right, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Madam President. Sheriff Reed, thank you for being here today. I also like to thank you for stepping up and lending your talents to the Sheriff's Office during a pretty difficult time. I have several questions. The first,
Got three.
right now, yes. The first was spurred off the conversation with Councilwoman Conwell regarding the notification of sexual predators. And I'm just wondering, you made mention of the expense of using sheriffs, having deputy sheriffs to actually go out door to door, as well as the challenges that spur from that, and having sheriffs randomly knocking on people's doors, and some of the difficulties and dangers that exist with that. And you made mention that, you know, to help solve that, you may actually add additional deputies to go out to do that. And I'm just wondering, is this something that we actually have to have a deputy sheriff actually go door to door? It seems like it could be, we could find other parties or community service organizations to actually go door to door to drop off flyers.
Yeah, well, here's actually what they don't do is they don't drop off flyers. You know what, I take that back. Here, let me answer the question. One, we're mandated by the Ohio Revised Code that deputy sheriffs have to go out and make those notifications and verifications. But we have the watch system also. We just this past year and a half that I've been sheriff, I looked at the resources that we've put into employees putting together these cards and sending them out, and how much it was costing in mail. Because not only do we have to have that deputy go house to house, in front and back on both sides, but we also have to send notifications out within 1,000 feet of that home to all of those residents that are in that area. So we don't do that with deputies on the 1,000 feet. We were doing that with our own system of employees putting together cards and sending them out, the postage and the whole. We did a cost-benefit analysis on that, and we went to what's called a watch system. And I don't know, Madam President, if that's on your agenda, but it's going to be coming up. It's a renewal of what's called the watch system.
Oh, okay, then we need a presentation on it, probably one of our upcoming work sessions.
And we have a number of people that are really, really talented in this area that know about the program. We went to, there's 66 different counties in the state of Ohio that use the watch system. That's a system that actually generates the pictures, generates the cards, and they send those out to all of the, and we've actually, the cost-benefit analysis shows that we're saving money by allowing this company to do that rather than having employees put it together, the postage, and having people deliver it.
Thank you. I know that under the previous sheriff's office, around in 2007, that there were road patrols in both the cities of East Cleveland and the city of North Randall. And my understanding is that those road patrols ended early in 2010, but another road patrol was added to downtown Cleveland. And I'm wondering what's the justification behind that, why we are, particularly with downtown Cleveland, with the abundance of law enforcement down there when you look at RTA and CMHA and all the other municipal law enforcement officers that come down to the Justice Center. It seems like we would want to use those resources in communities that really could use that help, that additional help.
Yeah. First, let me clarify one thing: is that it was the downtown patrol was not added. The downtown patrol actually was in existence for, well, I guess semantics, but it started a year and a half right after I got into office. Actually, Sheriff Bova at the time started the downtown patrol. I saw the importance of it. Let me share first the issues of training and having officers in the patrol division or deputies in the patrol division. We only have a small patrol division in the sheriff's office. As you said, Councilman, in downtown East Cleveland and North Randall, I think it really helps the development of officers that they're in the patrol division. What has happened in years past is we didn't have. First of all, officers they didn't even have citation books. If they were out and about in the county in a warrant unit in a patrol car and they stopped or they saw somebody blatantly flying by them, they couldn't issue a ticket unless they contacted a supervisor. The supervisor came out, brought a ticket book. No one had a ticket book. How embarrassing for a deputy sheriff, a law enforcement officer, not to be able to make a traffic stop. We put a stop to that right away when I came into office. Everybody was issued a ticket book. They were encouraged to make traffic stops throughout Cuyahoga County, and we put them through the training for that. So we had, and initially when Frank Bova was in office for 45 days, he started the downtown unit. Again, I saw the value in having officers assigned to patrol. It helps in their interview techniques. It helps for an officer to become a detective, and we have approximately 20 detectives that do, and are very busy throughout the county on different cases. You can't just take somebody out of the police academy and make them a detective. They got to go into the patrol division to be good policemen. So as we looked at it, and as we looked at budget in the year to come, we looked at the North Randall Patrol and we looked at the East Cleveland Patrol. And as through attrition we were losing deputies. First of all, we had 16 deputies laid off. We brought those back with a grant. And then we started looking, but through attrition, we were losing deputies. So we haven't hired deputies. I've been here a year and a half, a little over a year and a half, and they hadn't hired deputies for 2 or 3 years before that. So through attrition, we have to be at least 20 deputies down. Something, and let me back up. Most counties in the state of Ohio that go into municipal corporations actually charge those municipal corporations for deputy work. The salaries of the deputy, the fringes, the use of the car, gasoline, anywhere from $40 to $45 an hour for the use. And then if dispatching comes in, it's even more. The sheriff's office did not charge the city of East Cleveland, nor did they charge the city of North Randall. It didn't make sense, and I agree with the thought. They couldn't afford to have police officers in those communities. So now for us to charge them, it just didn't make any sense. So it made sense to keep them in East Cleveland while East Cleveland was getting more officers. They were down by 10 or 15 officers at least at the time that we started road patrol, which was about 3 or 4 years ago, three years ago, in East Cleveland. Over time, East Cleveland did a great job in getting grants, getting stimulus money to start hiring patrol officers through COPS grants. They went up over 50 officers, and when we saw that they when we pulled out the patrol, when I became sheriff, I went out and talked to Mayor Brewer at the time and said, listen, we need to think about an exit strategy because we just can't afford it. We have other areas that are being strained. We waited until that was in June of 2009. I waited until January that I went to talk to Mayor Brewer and said we need to have an exit strategy. And then come January, I went out to East Cleveland, and I think Mayor Norton was then the mayor, said that we have to discuss this, that we're no longer going to be able to afford those deputies. So we pulled North Randall out almost immediately because we couldn't afford those either. So really, Councilman, it boils down to the issue of resources. But to address the issue of having a downtown patrol, one, they are very, very busy in the city of Cleveland, certainly in the summertime, and even in the wintertime, they're backing up the city of Cleveland. We make a number of arrests on Thursdays and Friday nights in the warehouse district and all through the downtown area. We're really responsible for our downtown patrol goes from West 25th to downtown and then all the way out to 55th Street. So they're not just concentrating in the downtown. We only have 6 officers assigned. We left the downtown patrol because, one, I think it's a great partnership between ourselves and the city of Cleveland. As we're trying to build that relationship through the largest police department in the county, to assign 6 officers to work in harmony, to make the downtown safer, especially because we have, and I shared this even with the mayor of East Cleveland, that we have a lot of county-wide citizens that come into our downtown. So we can justify the use of a downtown patrol, especially during games, Indians, Cavs, Browns games. So, and the issue in reference to the outstanding experience they get with the patrol division. So I get it, and I told the mayor in East Cleveland, I agree. I know you're fighting for your community, but it does boil down to certain resources. We did help them out with with giving them, I think it was 8 or 9 vehicles that the county used as patrol cars. And I think it was only like $500 a piece that we gave those vehicles to the city of East Cleveland. We just did that over the last 6 months. So it boils down to resources.
Thank you. I'm wondering about, you made mention at our Tuesday meeting and briefly this morning regarding impact units. And could you explain a little bit about the impact units and what's the difference between the impact unit and a road patrol?
Well, that's a good question, and I guess another question is how do we pay for it? That's going to be the $10,000 question or more. Impact units are not really any different from patrol units. We will look at and get some specialists in there that we have a lot of deputies that are right now on task forces throughout the greater Cleveland area that really work with other law enforcement. We've actually started a training officer program using some seasoned veteran patrol officers that will be, when we hire these 10 new deputies over the next couple months, they will be assigned to one of these training officers that have been seasoned deputies in East Cleveland, North Randall, and our downtown patrol. So to answer your question, as far as the type of officers they are, they're going to be the same officers that we've had in East Cleveland, North Randall, and others that have the experience for road, but they're going to be focusing on issues in a particular jurisdiction. For example, the scenario I gave you with home burglaries in an area. We'll take those 6 or 8 deputies, however we're able to afford, and put those in an area in a strategic way to try to catch those people that are breaking into houses, but at least in a prevention way. Or, for example, when the IX Center calls us and says, you know what, we have a problem with juveniles, a big problem with juveniles involved in a small riot in the IX Center during they had the amusement park issue. I had over 100 juveniles that were running through the facility causing havoc. We assigned a number of deputies to the IX Center in addition to the city of Cleveland and Brook Park. We also actually went out to the communities and got DARE officers involved in it so that we could actually identify some of these juveniles that were causing some of these, creating havoc. So the issue is to get officers to these special areas that are having special problems, and flooding the area for 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever we can do, whatever the resources that we have. Now, how do we pay for that? We're putting together at the request of the county executive, we're putting together a plan that's going to be a mini plan, a medium plan, and a large plan, a grandiose one, on how we're going to, how many officers we're going to need, what it's going to cost. And I think what we'll do then is sit down with the county executive and council to go over how we're going to afford this. How do we do that? You put 10 deputies on, it's going to cost $750,000 to do that. So where do we come up with the money to do that? To answer your question, I don't know. We're going to have to look at the entire budget.
Well, the budget's going to come from us. The budget's going to come from us, so you better come here.
Exactly right, Madam Chairman. You're right. It needs to be a great partnership between all of us.
Thank you.
Mr. Greenspan?
Thank you. And Sheriff, I understand your experience on both sides is very helpful. And not only that, as having been a police chief and being a city manager, but your actual experience in this job is very noteworthy. Question for you, and this is kind of a general question. Since you've been on the job for a while and you have this experience, what type of, one of the things, this great opportunity, this reform movement that's going on, I'd like to see all of our departments, and I'll start this with you, be a model program for the country. What are your thoughts on how to make that happen? And I understand it's a long-ranging, overarching question, but I'm not asking for details. But generically, I'd like to know if that's your intent, and if so, how do you plan on making that happen?
Yeah, and I did say that in the day I got sworn in over a year and a half ago, when we had hundreds of employees in the Justice Center overlooking the swearing in. I said that one thing that we are going to do, and our goal is to be the best county sheriff's office, not only the largest, and we are, is to be the best county sheriff's office in the state of Ohio. And the only way that you do that, the only way that you accomplish that goal is with your staff. You got to certainly have the buy-in from the staff that they're one, they're treated fairly, two, that they know that their opinions count, and at the end of the day, being realistic, and you have the resources to do that. So I told our staff that the day of politics being involved in the sheriff's office is over. That they no longer are going to be motivated, involved in politics. I said from the very beginning that here are certain rules that you will abide by, and believe it or not, there's certainly no resistance to that. I think the majority of our employees, the almost 1,100 that we have, wanted that. They thrived on it, and they've continued to thrive on it. How do we accomplish, the goal of becoming the best sheriff's office in the state of Ohio? One is by our people. As chief of police, I think the best compliment I ever had was that officers from other departments would see me and they go, the one thing that I really like about your department is that they don't bad rap the department. Every one of them almost are ambassadors for the Bedford Police Department. And that's what we need to do with the Sheriff's Department. And I think we've done that. I think we've got a long way to go, but we do that. To have every one of them believe that the office, and one, they're treated fairly, and two, that we're going to be the best sheriff's office in the state of Ohio, and to share that with people that are out in the community. I think that's important. And when you hear that more and more and more from constituency, that they do a great job. They don't bad rap the office. They don't bad rap the sheriff. That's important, and that's not from discipline. That's from earning the respect from your subordinates. And I think that filters out into the community. But Councilman, I'm pragmatic. You have to have resources too, because all of that rah-rah only goes so far. So that when you have bargaining units that haven't had a raise in 3 years, granted, you can say they're great, they should be thankful that they have a job. I get it. But at the end of the day, when you don't have people that haven't had a raise in 3 years, like some of our units, the rah-rah only goes so far.
Madam President, I would just ask, as you go through your planning, that you keep that in mind. My two other questions can kind of be wrapped in, they can't be wrapped in one, but they're under the same guise of being fiscally responsible. I guess my first multi-part one question, but what is the turnaround time from when an inmate is to be released to when they actually walk out the door?
That's
and the reason I ask that is I draw back on experience. Fulton County Jail, before the new sheriff took over, it was 72 hours. It was 3 days. And so at a cost of anywhere $75 to $100 a day, you can see how those costs build up. I'm just curious because we set the policy. So, for example, if we set a policy that we want that to be 3 hours, you need to let us know so we can help provide you the resources you talked about. Doesn't mean, hopefully we'll be able to be in a position to provide that assistance, but we set the policy. I just need to know what the parameters are today.
Well, yeah, I'll give you as much as I can on it. We do set the policy on certain things, but we have to be partners with the court on it. I found that dictating to the court for the most part doesn't work. You got to work in partnership with them, and you got to say to the court, we want to do this as a partner. We would like to see the turnaround. We had prisoners in here for minor felonies for 30, 40 days. We've really reduced that to some of them that are in and out within 5 days. So it certainly depends on the situation. We have pretrial services that looks at all of these prisoners as they're coming in, and they make the decision on what the bail is going to be. We're working on a new project and through Parma. Parma is a pilot project where we're working at prisoners that are there and their felonies, and where we can actually set bond out there for them. We're starting with personal bonds so that we don't have to bring them down here. We don't even have to, now with the new APHIS system, we can identify them, we know who they are. We'll be able to set bonds in Parma. Parma is going to be Parma proper is the first one, and then we're going to expand it to the Parma Municipal Court. That's a partnership between the judges, the court, prosecutor's office, and the sheriff's office. So to answer your question, we have reduced the time on a lot of felonies from some of them up to 45 days to 5 days. We've got a success story there. But, you know, we have to work with the court. And I think that the prosecutor's office is doing, the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office is doing a great job of now is looking at the small success stories that we have, and let's build on it. Here's one of the things that I found coming from the city of Bedford to this large organization is, and the councilman, as you said, you know, what are some of the issues that I find between the two is a lot of these issues in the county go at glacial speed. They really do. And it's terribly, terribly frustrating on some issues. Some I think that we can really make decisions like this. Some we need to really research it. And the issue of people coming into the jail and releasing them in a timely manner, but at the same time protecting the community is really an issue that's convoluted. So we make one or two mistakes, and all of a sudden the people are outraged by it. You know, look what's happened just recently in some of these high-profile cases. So my point is that I think we've made a lot, but policy of saying, hey, they will be in and out within. Sometimes I look at that and say that'd be great, but it just doesn't work that way. We need to work as partners with the court, but we brought that down on some of these people down to 5 days. That's why part of early case management is working, but we need to take it to the next step.
Okay, good. Thank you. My final question has to do with housing of inmates, and once again, drawing on experience on a cost factor. I know that it's expensive. You said $75 to $95 and trying to outsource it. What are your thoughts on private jails, sending inmates outside of the county, not a Maricopa County type environment, but I can tell you in southern Georgia there are some facilities like that, and we were paying $35 a day, including transportation and medical. I don't know if those environments exist here, and if they could, what are your thoughts on possibly utilizing those facilities?
You know, there's certainly some upsides and some downsides to it. I went to a big jail conference that was actually paid for the federal government about 4 or 5 months ago. No, actually, it's been a year. And I listened to these big jails, the wardens and the sheriffs talk about the issues, and there's some real, you know, there's some real horror stories involved with privatizing in jails. But there's certainly some success stories too. You know, you look at Maricopa County, and you say, oh, you know, Sheriff Joe, he's tough and he does a lot of, but you know, he does a lot of things. But what a lot of people don't know is, and I'm certainly not criticizing Sheriff Joe. I've never met him, but what a lot of people don't know is they've lost their accreditation, their NCCHC accreditation, because of some of the issues that they have. A lot of people don't know the number of lawsuits that they go through every day with a prison population of 10,000 plus. So, you know, all of these hardline issues involving jails, and, you know, a lot of people say, well, you know, they should get bologna sandwiches, and they should be, well, yeah, okay, maybe that should be, but, you know, at the end of the day, we have to look at some of the, I think it's irresponsible not to look at the liability issues that go along with all of that. And we are really, nationwide, we are under the average. It depends on the situation, but for right now, we're at about $74 to $75 a day for a prisoner. That's under the national average, I think, is $81. So we're doing a pretty good job on the public sector side of keeping prisoners in there. You know, you got I think those prisoners that escaped recently and killed some people out in Arizona. That was a privately run jail. So, but you know, you get the horror stories on both sides. Right now, I think that privatization, I'd rather see it in the public sector.
Mr. Jones has a question, and that would have concluded everyone who's at the table making a question. So if we conclude with Mr. Jones and maybe take about a 5-minute break and then maybe conclude by 12 o'clock. Mr. Jones?
Madam President, I do have
Yeah.
one more question I'd like to ask.
Well, let's do the first round, then we'll take a break and come back to the second round.
That sounds good.
Thank you, Sheriff Reed, for being here today. You've answered many questions today and very thoroughly. My question relates to the impact units you mentioned and my own experience seeing burglaries and neighborhood issues dealt with. I've seen success on a small scale, in a neighborhood level, through collaboration with residents, through the confidentiality that the residents are given, and through this particular process, just the impact on the crime on that level, municipal police being involved. Can you see the county being involved in that process? Something tells me if it can work on that small level, how do you replicate it? And if, because I've seen the success, I'm concerned or I wonder what are the issues or the hurdles that prevent it from just taking place all over? Are they elected officials? Are the hurdles there with territory or the police themselves? We built good relations with our police officers and fought through those myths or issues that the police weren't there to help the community. And after a few years of working, the police were so excited about our neighborhood, they would ask their commander, can we go back to the central neighborhood? Or, those type of things. That community policing attitude was built up. I'm just wondering, what are the hurdles that... I'll stop there if I've...
Sure. There's so many programs out there that are feel-good programs that are really ineffective, where you're just throwing resources into doing nice things. I mean, I look at what's happened in and I don't know enough about the study, and maybe someone here knows more about it, but I look at the study that happened in Harlem, where they started with small neighborhoods, and they just built, and already now are up to 75 blocks, where they started in one block and said, you know what, we're going to get everybody involved in this. We're going to get all the community of fixing up the broken windows concept of policing, getting the community involved. Let's start small. Let's look at a block at a time. And look at what they did in Harlem in a very, very short period of time. I mean, they have now investment going in there into hundreds of thousands of dollars of people that are moving into the Harlem area because they started with one block, and over a 3-year period of time, I think it was, is now they're up to almost 80 blocks of what? Cleaning up the neighborhoods, getting the community involved in it. And that's hard to say. That's hard to do when you have absentee landlords in a lot of communities, in a lot of these streets. So I think that's just the police is just one part of it. It absolutely has to be a safe environment for people to want to live there and to want to build and to come into a community. If it's not safe, you're not going to go there. You don't want to raise your family in that area. So impact units are certainly going to help. But those areas of our community in Cuyahoga County that have multiple issues, not to get more committees involved in it, but just do it in a small way. And maybe it's one block at a time, like they did in Harlem. I think that they laughed at him. And I forget what his name is. Sullivan?
Jeff Canada.
Yeah, Jeff Canada, that's right. I think that they probably laughed at him when he first started this and said, yeah, okay, it's another feel-good program. That'll go away. There's not enough resources. But look what he did in a very, very short period of time. So it's not just the police getting involved in it. It's got to be the entire neighborhood. And if you don't get the neighborhood to buy into it, it's police impact units coming in for 2 or 3 weeks. Some of these criminals, they'll hide. They'll go someplace else, and then they'll come back. So unless we get the entire community involved in it, even impact units aren't going to work.
My follow-up to that is there are block watches going on all over the county. At that level, the residents, they get their concerns out, but it seems to like hit a brick wall. And then it seems like those at the top don't know how to connect down at the grassroots level. When those residents express their concerns, they shouldn't just go out into the air and then they leave and that's it. That there has to be some way of writing it down and literally following through on it from monthly meeting to monthly meeting. And that's kind of where I'm trying to get at. What is, you use the word a harmonious relationship, I believe, with the city. You always see the municipal police present. Could the county be present? I'm not really sure how to phrase this question, but it all centers around bridging that gap between the grassroots concerns of the resident and the capacity at higher levels to actually respond to that question, to those problems. I mean, we've seen it in the 1,000 volunteers that politically they came together, they created a transition, a template that we could use. You see it in the Safe Surrender event you mentioned, the churches or the church ministries as they connect to the county at that level and do what they can to help. How do we make that same connection or make the connection that's there effective?
Well, yeah, I think what we need to do is you do need to look at what's been successful throughout the United States. And in some of these programs that have been successful, look at what New York did in a very short period of time, and I think it was 3 years under Giuliani, and looking at the broken windows concept of policing. But it's resources. Part of it is resources, and it's part of getting the community to buy into it. I don't think that today's day, here, you know the reasons for the reasons for there's a reduction in crime in the United States. And there is, actually. We may not experience it yet, but there is a reduction totally in the United States and a reduction in crime for 2 reasons. One, unfortunately, it's incarceration. Incarcerating people that is undesirable as that may be. That's part of the issue, and the other issue is statistics, statistical analysis to taking your resources and putting it in the right spot. Chief McGrath is huge on that. The Fusion Center is working towards it. So today, doing nice things, block watches are good. I wasn't crazy about them in the city of Bedford because then it says, well, yeah, one area has got a block watch, the other area doesn't, and then all of a sudden, the person that's in charge of the block watch wants to be personally notified when situations go wrong in the neighborhood. And then what happens is, you're spending a lot of resources trying to keep people informed rather than doing good policing. So I frowned on some of those issues on block watches throughout the community, at least in the city of Bedford. But here, the only way we do things and do it effectively is one, I think, is through statistics. It's deplorable to me for the city of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, to have out of the top 10 to have 2 of the worst neighborhoods in the United States. That's deplorable. And maybe what we need to look at is what we can do to combat that through statistical analysis and working in partnerships with them. Today, it's too expensive to try to do nice programs. I hate to sound insensitive, but that's the way it is. I think we need to look at what has been successful throughout the United States, and replicate those issues.
All right, thank you. We're going to take a break until 11:30, and we could probably conclude by 12. Thank you for your endurance.
Sure, thank you.